Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Relationships are so important in our lives. We are humans. We are social creatures. We want to be around other people. Maybe sometimes not all the time, but it's kind of important. And how do you cultivate those relationships? Keep them moving forward, keep the fire in your personal, intimate relationships. We started talking about that last week with Allison Cowan, and she's with Purposeful Pathways lifecoaching.com. We're going to pick that up and dig even deeper into it. Allison, how you doing today?
I am doing great. Happy to see you.
Great to have you back here. And when we last spoke, we kind of turned the car with relationships into trust, and then that led to infidelity. And you had left off, I'm going to find out how many relationships continue after there is infidelity. We were just kind of wondering what that number was, and then you looked into it and you have those stats. What do we got?
70% of people stay together after infidelity.
Okay. When we say that, do we mean forever, or they stay together after there's infidelity and
They stay together after there's infidelity, and they, there's a lot of work that goes into it. But one of the things is that I was reading is, even if your partner cheats, you don't stop loving your partner.
Well, sure. And by the way, I'm not buying that number. It's not you. But I go deeper into that. Is it, there's an episode of cheating. It was discovered, confessed, whatever it may be. You talked it through, you worked it through. Did the relationship continue past that? So where I'm going with that is, let's say it happened 10 years ago. Are these couples still together? Was there another episode? You know where I'm going?
Yes, I do. And research has shown that actually relationships become stronger when couples work through it and decide to stay together.
Okay.
I know. I was surprised, and I didn't just look at one source. I looked at many sources. I looked at, actual research studies, not just something off the internet. But
interesting.
I was pretty surprised myself.
Because many times, correct me if I'm wrong on this, that the cheating can take place, not your typical, oh, well, I'm not getting what I need in that relationship. That can be, yeah, absolutely two-way street. Totally got that. But there's a lot of times where somebody will cheat because they have issues within that aren't resolved. And if those issues aren't truly resolved, and it's not even a, work through it as a couple thing, it's work through it yourself with support from your partner, you're just going to repeat that, or there's going to be.
So there's the 30%. There's the 30% of people. Then if somebody's going to be a repeating cheater, there's that 30%,
right,
of the people who won't make it. So yes, I was just as much as you. It was jaw-dropping to read and really look into this. And
because it's not just about what is taking place or took place, it's more about the breach of trust. So when there is no trust in a relationship, and I got to say, any relationship, then how do you have a relationship? How do you, you're always looking over your shoulder, you're always wondering. Seems hard to get past, but all right, 70%.
It takes a lot of. So the person who did the cheating, it takes a lot on their part. So they have to not only come clean, but I'm sorry isn't enough. They have to like truly show remorse and communicate in different ways and show it as well. So it's not just what you say, it becomes what you do. And the person who was the cheater has to, is, they have to be accepting of their partner's distrust in them
Sure.
until the trust is rebuilt.
Is it ever?
Well, 70%.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and this one says, I have another one that says 60 to 80%. And I'm trying to find where I had the information that they actually so there was one study that was done, and they discovered that couples who remain married reported an increase in satisfaction over time, regardless of whether or not they struggled with infidelity. So
very interesting. All right.
yeah.
The stats speak. Okay.
So yeah, and I was just, and like I have like sheets of paper of things that I printed, and was really just as surprised as you are right now.
Yeah. And, in my circles, talking with friends, friends of friends, friends of friends of friends, I don't hear that. And then I always try to qualify it is, okay, so they're staying together. Are they just staying together because it's too much work to get divorced financially and all of that? But you're saying that the relationships are stronger. So that would make it seem that no, that's not the case, that it's okay. Not a license to cheat people. Don't think it that way.
So I was actually I had this underlined here, why people closest to you tell you to leave after someone has cheated. And as a society, I'm just going to read it straight out of their words. As a society, we have a tendency to shame men and women who choose to stay in their relationship after infidelity. Because society's general belief that a cheater is always a cheater, and that's not necessarily the truth.
Agreed. It may not necessarily be the truth, but more times than not, based on, and I've done this survey on the radio a few times and had people weigh in on it. And the topic was, once a cheater, always a cheater. What do you think? And more than not said, yeah, once somebody is predisposed to doing that, they're probably going to do it again. And yeah, there's situations where it was a one-off or it was just, bad decisions and things like that. But usually, at least from what I'm hearing, that it will happen again. It will happen again.
And that's how other people weigh in on someone's situation. That's the way society looks at it with other people. So, if the survey was done a different way, I'm curious. Have you survived? How many people have you survived? Has your relationship survived after infidelity?
Right. Yeah.
Rather than, of course, you want to protect your friend, your loved one. So once a cheater, always a cheater. Get out.
But a lot of times, and we're going to move on from this in a second because we're going to get back to relationships, but a lot of times you have house, kids, life together, and then there's infidelity. So of course you're going to try and work it out. You're not going to say, you're out of here, done. You are going to work it out. But my question from the beginning there was, if you do work it out or try to and think you have, does it happen again? And from what I hear, it usually happens again. But all right, but the stats speak. So
Yeah, and that the relationships actually become stronger because of it.
yeah.
So
And then there's a whole other uh, force of people that say that you should not be with one person. It should be with multiple people, but we won't even go there right now.
yeah, that's a whole, there is that belief of the genetic pool.
Yeah, we weren't
We weren't meant to be monogamous. I know
yeah,
there are people who believe we weren't meant to be monogamous.
right. And I'm not passing judgment on that. I'm just saying
Nope,
it's a
it's
whole other,
whatever, that's your thought and
that's a
that's your
whole other
belief.
topic. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
if it works,
Yeah.
people
Well
have
then,
open marriages.
well, then there's that. You know,
It
if it works
works.
for you, there's no judgment.
Whatever works for you.
Exactly.
But yeah, I was surprised as well.
Mm.
So
So
I'm glad that we came back to it.
we are talking about relationships, and that's where we left off last time. But the one thing that we didn't talk about is the probably the most important relationship you can have, and it's not with your partner, it's not with your friends, it's not with your kids, it's not with your family. The most important relationship that you can have is with yourself. And if it's not a solid relationship, then you can't have solid relationships with other people, right?
Absolutely. Um, you know, everybody, you know, we're all human, so we all struggle in certain areas, confidence, um, self-worth, beliefs,
Trust.
people pleasing, trusting yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, mistakes we've made, accept and learning from them and moving forward. So there's so much within a person themselves, and actually learning to accept yourself and love yourself for who you are. And that's very difficult because we're kind of taught to be, well, I'm humble, you know, and if you love yourself, well, then you're not humble. And humble is not, that's not really about humbleness, you know. It's like if I'm self-deprecating, then I'm humble. And I
Sure.
apologize, my
No, no
dog.
worries.
So
Nah,
see my everybody.
it's a way of life. That's
Oh, I can't
yes,
believe I
we
just
do.
said that.
Not a problem.
On live radio.
Not a problem. It's you know what? It's
Yeah,
because
my dog sometimes can get a little
no
um
problem.
so
You know what? It's like if this was like 5, 10 years ago, you know, then people might be like, oh, that's kind of weird. Now it's everyday life. You know, you have you know, network newscasters doing their stuff from home, and kids are walking, cats are on keyboards. It's like nobody cares.
I know.
It's called
And in fact,
life.
but yeah, I just, that was another, you know, my mentor and coach Frank that I've talked about very often. That's one of his favorite words. And I was like, oh no, I just said that on national radio. I'm so sorry if I offended anybody.
No, no worries. But yeah, you know, talking about relationships and being humble, I think we have this thing that's been placed upon us through society that if we come on a little stronger, yeah, I'm happy with myself. I'm confident. I'm good. It's perceived to be in your brain as being cocky or egotistical, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to be that person, you know, that oh, look at them, they're full of themselves. No, maybe they feel good about themselves, and they're thinking that people are thinking that they're full of themselves. So we don't do that.
And It just because you have a good relationship with yourself doesn't mean you're going to come off as cocky.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you can just have a very just stableness about you
Sure.
that um and yeah, and loving yourself, it's hard to love others unless you love yourself.
When it comes down to us being comfortable within our own skin, where do you begin? Obviously, it's okay to start with a life coach, to have somebody to really take a look at where you're at and provide that insight for you. But even before that, where do you go? Is it positive affirmations? What do you think?
I believe that it is different for every person. So where a person starts is when they hit a pain point. So they start noticing something within themselves where I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to, I want to move forward. And that's usually
Hmm.
when, and that pain point is going to be different for different people. And there is something that I often give my clients in the very beginning, which is called the wheel of life. And actually, that's a common coaching tool. And I've revised it, which is level 10 life. And it has more areas. So, social, family, financial. So it goes through like 10 different areas and you rate them with how satisfied you are from a 1 through a 10.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because just because somebody puts a 2 in one area doesn't mean that that's where they want to work. Um, so, but the goal is to, have this more rounded wheel.
Hmm. Interesting. And very interesting that you said that just because you have, let's say you score yourself a 2 out of 10 in one area, doesn't necessarily mean you want to work on that area. You might be fine with it. Yeah, I'm good. Whatever it is. I don't know which one of those would be, but
Well, and sometimes working on one area actually starts to improve another area.
point.
Um, you know, I think if somebody scores a 2 on creativity and an 8 on um, you know, a business or their work. And so they might want to focus on that, which could increase their creativity.
Totally got it. Hmm. How many on that survey? How many different points are there? From 0 to 10 scales.
It's 0 to 10.
No, I'm
Um,
sorry. How many different topics on there do you?
Mine has 10.
Okay, so there's 10. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Wow.
it could go, I mean, they can be as much as you want. I mean, but then it gets overwhelming and don't want to, like,
Yeah.
don't want to be overwhelmed.
But what an eye opener, though. When you think of it, what you're exposing from yourself as you're faced to score these things, it kind of makes you think, doesn't it?
Well, and it's a great way for people to see, like, okay, after a certain amount of time working together, do it again, go through that wheel again and see how you score. And
Mm.
sometimes it's interesting because people get to a 10 and then it's like, well, okay, now your 10 becomes your 1. So they can keep growing. So it's really fascinating.
No, it really is. And it's almost like the wheel of progress for yourself.
Spin the wheel, Steve.
We have it at Disney. I don't
Wheel
know.
of progress.
But
I
yeah,
love
I
it.
mean, because it's you start here, then you revisit that in maybe 6 months and then score yourself again and see where you're at with everything. So yeah, I think that's super cool. So that's something, if somebody works with you, that's something that
It's one of the first, yeah. So even with a consult, I do provide certain things for people, even prior to the consult. That's one that I provide. I provide what to expect during the discovery call or consult call. And if I know something about what they're going through, maybe just like a little piece of information that offers value,
Mhm.
what they're struggling with most.
Oh, interesting. And it's good for you because it's like gives you a baseline of who they are. You kind of have a starting point there. Oh,
Yeah, because I want to hit the ground running. Um, you know, people are paying for this and they deserve to have high quality coaching.
sure.
And rather than, okay, let's spend the first session getting to know you, that's why we have the consult. That's why I send things so we can start hitting the ground running,
Yeah. Yeah.
moving forward from day one.
Uh, Personally for you, I know you have a keyboard in the back there, and I think I see a guitar. So
Like there's a keyboard, the guitar, there's a flute, there's a dulcimer, there is two ukuleles,
wow.
one that has the fingerings of a ukulele but sounds like a banjo. Um, I can kind of turn my screen. I don't know what you're gonna see, but yeah, there are instruments pretty much
Wow. So you
all
have
around.
and the reason I'm bringing it up, I know we're digressing. We have a couple of minutes left, but I'm trying to get to know the real Allison here. You have a music background.
Yes.
Yeah. In what capacity?
Um, I have a master's in both music education and music performance.
Wow. Interesting. Do you think that helps you with your in terms of helping people being analytical? The musical mind is not just any mind. It can get very complex in terms of notes, timing, signatures. Do you think that's helpful?
Yes, and often, you know, I use music or dance and movement. You know, the coaching is a dance.
Mm,
Um, there is some orchestration behind it, but I'm just I'm just kind of I'm not making the music, the other person is. I'm facilitating their music to be made.
love it. Yeah, I don't know what inspired me to ask you because I just saw the keyboard and the guitar, and normally I don't have that. I have some guitars on the wall, but it's because I don't play, but they're like celebrity signed and that kind of thing. So, and
Mhm.
I can't play, I can't sing. I shouldn't say I can, because if I put my mind to it,
Oh, we talked about this. Remember, we
yeah,
talked about this last time, I think. Um,
I probably couldn't
where
do it. Yeah, but I don't feel it's me, and I don't have any problems with it. I just don't have the patience for, let's say, playing a musical instrument. It just doesn't motivate me. I love music. Ask me any song. I've been playing music since I was 17, professionally on the radio. I love every song.
Yeah, I know you always come up with a song, whatever we're talking about, and so do I. I think it's always funny.
It just pops in my head. I don't know what, but it's interesting. And it's interesting when you look at lyrics and look at life. When you find songs that resonate for you, it's like, oh, you know what? They're talking my language.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes it's not every part of a song.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, I have theme songs all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I will often, depending on what a client is going through, I will send them, well, here's a great song for you that I was thinking of you, and but like one of my favorites is "Ain't Nothing Gonna Break My Stride. Nobody's gonna slow me down. Oh no, I got to keep on moving." Because it's like, all right, especially if you're having that, okay, I'm not feeling as motivated as I want to, bring that theme song in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. Matthew Wilder, and went to #1, his only hit song, and I do believe it came out in 1983. I like Radio Rain Man. Useless information. I got it right over here, and I know the exact song because it was the only song not the only song, but it was kind of unusual because it had a reggae texture to it, and for a pop song back then.
Yeah.
And then after that, Culture Club came out with songs like "I'll Tumble For Ya," and that had that kind of reggae influence, which I love. And shut up, Steve. Okay, I will.
Yeah, well, I can go into all of the musicology
you go for
with
it.
that, but
Yeah.
but
Great song,
if we want to have a podcast on musicology, we can.
But you're right, though, and that's a great song in terms of moving your life forward. Yeah, when you start thinking of them, there's so many out there that you may have listened to, but it didn't resonate then, but then it does now because you're in a different place in your life. I want to tell everybody, Purposeful Pathways, lifecoaching.com is your website. And if anybody's listening, watching, and thinking about, I got to make a change, I need a little bit of help, even to start with that 10-question 0 to 10 scale survey, can be impactful. And that could be the one thing that starts the dialogue with you, and maybe can change somebody's life, or many, right?
And just so that people remember, when I say complimentary discovery call, it is free. Some people, I think, forget, well, how much does it cost? I'm like, it's complimentary. So just, I don't know, sometimes there's some confusion with that. I don't want to just say free, because that sounds kind of
cheap. Yeah,
but it is free.
Yeah.
So, and I devote an hour.
Sure.
Devote an hour.
Love
and it. Because it means that much.
Well, you have a passion for what you do, and it totally shows. And everybody, Purposeful Pathways, lifecoaching.com. We had a little tech issues, but we got through it today, Allison.
We did.
Always great having you.
We kept moving.
Nothing's going to break our stride. There you go. Yep.
No.
All right. Always a pleasure. And look forward next time we talk, and I'll find a song that resonates the next topic. I'll come up with something.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
when I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.